Hello, it's me again. Um, I decided to go ahead and do recordings of the assignments that I'm doing for the New Order of Druids. Probably going to do it for all 3 courses, but as I said in a previous video, right now I'm working through the Bardic course. And please excuse the noise by my cats. And yes, I'm wearing a blanket. No, I'm not cold, but today this little guy who is sound asleep. He is a 1 week kitten. Obviously don't know the gender, it's only a week old. But I was not satisfied with how warm the heating pad was keeping him. So I am keeping him close to me with the blanket on to make sure baby is staying warm enough. So I'm hot. For this video, before you get into the book assignments, they got an assignment per chapter. They have you do 3 handbook assignments. So because those are little short blurbs, a paragraph each maybe, I am going to do all 3 of the handbook assignments in this video. And then I have done 1 course, or I've done the first assignment for the Bardic course. So this course again is free. They have a paid for version, in which case you actually get a one-on-one mentor. So you're paying for that mentorship to get that mentor's opinion. In this version, the free version, what you're getting is your response either meets or does not meet the expectations of the assignment. I have not seen anybody not meet the expectations according to their standards. We shall see. We'll see how all this stuff goes. But, okay. And I'm sorry, I can't look at you while I'm reading. And the cats have already been knocking things off the table today, so hopefully we don't have any issues. Yeah, I guess that's going to have to do. Okay, for the first handbook assignment, the task was look at the external article titled Doing the Work, Building a Spiritual Space. Then summarize and synthesize. At this point, all I'm asking, this is all I'm asking. I'm not asking you to write a fully developed paper, just practice summarizing and synthesizing. And then it tells you where to find the article, which is in the student handbook, but there's also a link to it. But somebody had posted that the link wasn't working, just use the handbook. Okay. My response. I could feel the emotions of the article of this, or of the author of this article. So I know she's actually practicing. This is an article that comes after my own heart. I was at one time an armchair pagan. And once I started doing some form of daily ritual, as she suggests we should do, much changed. The article starts of talking about people who behave as I used to, who quantify yourself as a pagan why quantify yourself as a pagan if you don't do anything with it? I was happy she didn't go into the many reasons I've heard for people to start this journey because they are vast, and most of the ones I know of never venture far beyond their own ways. I liked how she discussed how difficult her ritual was for her at first, and that she needed help and motivation to get started because so many do. Having a practice doesn't just connect you with your inner wisdom. It's not just about learning spells and being able to cast as you choose. So many of us choose this path because we want to make the world around us better, but we can't figure out the how portion of that equation. The only way to figure that out is by doing the work. I think saying something like that would have made her argument stronger. If you are in this for selfish reasons, you won't get far. If you are honest about wanting to make things better, There are no limits but those you set for yourself. Even if you can only do a 3-minute meditation each day, start there. Your soul will thank you. That was the first one. I was nervous about submitting the third one, but you'll see why when we get there. The second one was a little more challenging for me. Okay. From the list, this is a two-parter. From the list of topics below, choose one and tell me why you chose it and what kind of paper you would write on it. And the options are initiation, meditation, mythology, cauldron, lug, or kuchulain. Yeah, I know I butchered that. And then part 2, go to the Circle Forums page on the NOD website and scroll down to Specialized Courses. Choose one of the listed courses that you would wish to specialize in. Now, state the reason you chose it and what kind of paper you would write, giving a clear explanation for your choice of subject. Those options are Becoming Aware, Celtic Polytheism, Nemeton course, I got no clue what that is, absolutely none, Druid Specialization, Active Druidry, Seership Studies, Celtic Gods and Goddesses, and Introduction to Celtic History. We all know how I feel about history. My response. For the first part of this assignment, I would choose Cauldron because I know a few topics covered in this subject and want to explore deeper. I was a master of the runes in a past life and am doing interesting things with them in this. Even wrote a book on it called Druidic Rune Path. It's quite different from what people consider traditional, but it works great for me. I also have a Master's of Science in Herbal Medicine. Herbs are quite fun and extremely vast and diverse. I don't think it's possible to learn everything. I even taught the head of our department something when I submitted the beginning of my book, Details About Rosemary, as my final project. Both of these topics are extremely deep. Frankly, if I were to do a paper on the subject of cauldron, I would have to do the many topics separately, or even do each as a chapter and make a book out of it, and probably only scratch the surface. In addition to these, cooking with intention has garnered my interest of late. It's amazing. For the second part, I have to ask, why are you doing this to me? Or what are you doing to me? Sorry. There are 4 topics I'm having trouble choosing between because they are each fascinating in their own right. I think I would have to start with becoming aware because it just makes sense to be aware before you start the rest of the topics. Even the things that are mundane, like history. From an aware state, you can look at things from other points of view and think of questions or be more analytical than you would from an unaware state. I think I would probably start with a 750-word essay on the importance of being aware, then maybe do a few other papers after that on ways to become aware and perhaps my own journey to give inspiration to others. It's important to understand that we are all individuals, and what works for one may not work for another. Sometimes it takes learning the methods of others, then using that as inspiration to carve your own path. Which is why this channel is here. Okay, assignment number 3. Sorry, I gotta make it bigger. Okay. Provided are 3 sources. Tell me which ones are good and which ones are bad and why. One source is the Linguistics Research Center from the University of Texas at Austin. The next is The Ancient Celts by Barry Cunliffe Cunliffe. And it's got links to the different things there. And then the next is the book Dancing with Dragons, Invoke Their Ageless Wisdom and Power by D.J. Conway. Now, in the, I think he's starting to get hungry. In the student handbook, it said nothing by Lewlands is acceptable, which I can understand. They're looking for scholarly, which to me is another problem. But we'll get there. My response. The first source from the Linguistics Research Center would be considered a good source as they are actively performing research. Hopefully they are well funded and do not have any biases. This would be a game changer and I would have to stop using them as a source. While I was in school, we were prohibited from using the Mayo Clinic as a source because they held strong biases. And I couldn't remember the other organization that we weren't allowed to use at the time that I did this writing, but WebMD was the other one. We were prohibited from Mayo Clinic and WebMD, not valid sources, because of their biases. As a result, I now look into this for any source. As such, the same would go for the next source, Barry Cunliffe. I know he's well respected in the field, but that does not mean he holds no biases. For the purposes of this assignment, I will say these are good sources, but if I were going to actually use them in a paper, I would do my due diligence before quoting them. At one time, I was exploring Wicca and stopped because there are some crazy things out there. This brings us to D.J. Conway. I had every book by this author over a decade ago, including the book mentioned here. I started reading one of the books and was upset over wasted money. Now I have grown a great deal and I understand far more about spiritual connections and am interested in exploring this book again from fresh eyes. However, again, I would not consider this as a good source because at the moment, based on past experience, the information contained within the covers would have made better kindle for my fireplace than educational or inspirational material. And that's how I ended it. Okay. I wasn't going to go into further on that one. At issue that I have with this course. Druidry is about spirituality. There is no acceptable scholarly sources right now on spirituality, which means how can you quote a scholarly source on spirituality? Sure, you can get a scholarly thing on history, of course, but is it accurate history? Everything on the Celts has a Christian slant. Everything. The Celts were not Christians. The Celts were conquered by the Christians. How accurate is that history? Yet we're supposed to quote that as being accurate, which means all scholarly material out there on the Celts is biased and therefore not a valid source. Period. There's no way around that. So I wonder if at some point I'm going to run into that, where they want me to quote something that they consider a scholarly source and a good source. But if you can't write it from the perspective of the people that you're writing it on, it's not a valid source. It's not a valid perspective. You can't know what was going through their minds when they were performing their rituals. You weren't there. And the people who wrote on it killed them. Okay? Not good. Now, on the DJ Conway thing, I did actually buy another copy of the Dragon book because, like I said in there, I am curious. Now that I understand more on the spirituality aspect and I'm not just studying words on a paper, I want to see what's in it because it might make more sense now. We can't discount a source just because it wasn't written by a college professor. Not when we're looking for spirituality. If you want a spiritual source, the only way to find it is to view it, or to listen to it, or to read it, and see how it makes you feel. Does it make your soul rejoice? Does it make your soul go, heh, no, no, no? I've had that from spiritual people. But they weren't where I was. I'm not saying they're above or below or whatever, because that doesn't exist. We are all on our own path. No one else can do our path for us. We must listen to our souls. If we aren't listening to our souls yet, we need to learn how. And the only way to do that is to get in touch with your emotions. How does the content make you feel? And just because it makes you feel bad does not mean that it's bad content. Because that could also just be your ego going, that's scary. Right? It's going to take more discernment than that. And I think that's one of the best things that I've done with the exploring the graces. And I did some shorts that I didn't record properly as shorts, so therefore they're not going to show up as shorts, with the graces. So if you're having trouble cutting through the noise and trying to figure out if something actually is for you or not, invoke the grace of discernment. And do it in groups of 3. So do it 3 times or 6 times or 9 times, whatever number of 3 you like, 12, 21, I don't care. Whatever number of 3 you want to use. If you are having trouble with wisdom, I invoke the grace of knowledge and the grace of wisdom, because you have to have the knowledge first. Knowledge comes first, then the wisdom. Okay? If you're having trouble getting in touch with your emotions, which one do you want to get in touch with? You might just want to do the grace of love. Open up that heart chakra. Once it's opened up, that'll help you out a lot. There's a lot more to spirituality than studying a book. If you're studying a book, you're not going to find your spirituality. You have to go within. And that's what that first assignment was about. The armchair pagans. Pick which type of pagan you are. If you're not doing any work, you're not doing any work on yourself. You're not becoming the person you're meant to be in this life. You can read a book here, read a book there, That's not spiritual development. They'll give you spiritual scholarship, but no experience, no wisdom to pass on, no growth. Okay? And that's my soapbox for today. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, like, share, subscribe.